My pleasure to bring you a little talk about library databases, how to find them, how to use them, and how to use OneSearch. So, if you're not familiar or, you're just kind of jumping in, we're going to be looking at ways in which you can find sort of scholarly, peer-reviewed secondary sources that you will be expected to cite as part of your research project. So here's our library main page. So this is something you all should be familiar with. We can scroll down, click on our books. These are Brooks, these are Linwood, so if you're looking through kind of content here, this will get you to the right spot. So, we can scroll down, and here is our OneSearch tab. So OneSearch is the general search engine by which you can browse the library for content that you might be that might be germane to the thing you're researching. So for OneSearch, we can do a basic search, which is kind of a limited tool, but sometimes works, especially if you kind of know already the thing you're looking for. For example, watch what happens when I look for a documentary called Killing Us Softly. Killing Us Softly is an excellent documentary on women in advertising that was very, very popular in the 80s. And it's still like a good resource today. So, I have to log in. I'll have to excuse this. Here we go. So you can see how, because I already sort of knew what I was looking for, I already kind of get a lot of results that are really sort of pertinent to the content I'm going after, right? We can see here's our e-video. If I were to click on this, it says online access, so I can get right to it. But if you don't know what you're looking for in advance, or if you're looking at a more general search like for subject matter, you're going to need to go to the advanced search browser, which is here. So we're going to click on this. So the advanced search browser opens up this tab. So we have these tabs that have any, contains, and then our publication date, material type, language, etc. So, and I can open up, and this is telling us where our search field here will look. So let's say we'll go with women in television. So this search field will direct the query at one of these categories that I click on. So in the title it says that I will search for only women in television in the title of an object I'm looking for. As author or creator, so if there's an author you feel like that you really want to go after, or someone else you found who's like, and you just want to see if there's any extra books they've written, this is a good source. Subject, again, you're looking through like subject headings, but it's a little less precise than these two. In general, if you're doing like kind of a general search, leave it at any. So contains, women in television. So is exact, think about this sort of as a similar tool to what you do if you like use quotation marks on a Google search. So for those of you who don't know, if you put like quotation marks onto a Google search engine, Google will filter your results to find any instances where the word or the quoted sort of text appears exactly as you put it. So if you're looking for an exact search, this is it can be a pretty useful tool, but we'll leave it with contains for now. Starts with also is similar to our exact, but it'll only look for instances where this text appears at the front of the body of something. So if it's looking at an abstract, right, it'll look for an abstract that starts with women in television. And then these are our Boolean operators. These are kind of or not are kind of interesting tools that you can use, and there are guides for them. But in general, you're just going to leave it on and. Publication date. This is a valuable tool if you're looking for more recent material. So if you don't want to find articles that were published in 1970 or like 1960 or like even the late 90s, you can start setting these like filters. So for example, if you want articles published in the last 5 years or the most like recent understanding of a field, this is a pretty good place to start. These are materials, all items. In general, you're not going to need to kind of filter around with this. Although one sort of feature I really like is this ebooks tab. So if you're looking for a book specifically where you can get an electronic copy of the book where you don't have to go into the library, so if you're like a remote student or it's just, you're working a lot or it's not very convenient for you to come into the library, this is pretty good because ebooks will filter content only for an ebook specific tab. And this is like content that if they have it, you can look at it. Articles are similar to, this isn't true all the time, but as a general rule, if you find an article through OneSearch, you're going to be able to look at that article from the convenience of your own computer. So we'll just keep that on all items. Any language, you shouldn't really need to mess around with this too much unless you're looking at content that's not in English, or you want to find content that's not in English, and that could be germane to a research project, but it may or may not be. So these start dates are sort of go back to this publication date. If you've set a filter for the last 5 years, unless you need to be like specific to the day and the month when something is published, you're probably okay. So the scope. So as a CWU student, you have access to books from a broad consortium of universities, and also you have access to Summit. So this will find anything that's directly germane to CWU's network, CWU books, articles, and more. CWU plus Summit will get you access to CWU and everything you have in Summit. Libraries worldwide is a little tricky. If it's not part of Summit's network, you may be able to order the book, but it probably will take a pretty long time to get it. Everything is just the sum of everything it's indexed. Again, just because you find something in everything does not mean you're going to have an easy time getting access to it. So for convenience sake, this is a good tab. This is also a pretty good tab too. But we'll just keep it with this. So now we have women in television as our category in push search. And here we go. So we're looking at, 3,629 articles. These are sorted by relevance. I can sort them by date, newest, by popularity, by author, or by title. But in general, you're just going to want to leave this on relevance. Although popularity, it's kind of an interesting widget. So, closing that out. So you can also see we have content that is, there's a couple of useful filters that you're going to want to apply during your searches. And one of this is, like CW online resources are good. Available at CW is very nice because, it's just going to be, at Brooks Library in this particular case. Or peer-reviewed journals. So if you're looking for peer-reviewed content, you're going to want to click this filter. It's also worth noting that before we get too far into it, that this content all can be accessed on the left as well. So this is designed really to be very convenient for you as the user, so you have multiple points of access. So here's our peer-reviewed content, right? These are articles that have all been peer-reviewed, as we can see here. Portrayal of men and women in television advertisements, an updated review of 30 studies published since 2000. For the in-class lecture I did, we went through this article, and it's actually really kind of a nice piece of writing. It's just a review of other sort of studies done in countries around the world on issues relating to women, men, and sort of their depiction in advertising. One of the reasons, though, you can tell it's like peer-reviewed content is, one, I've applied this filter, but you can see, too, it's Scandinavian Journal of Psychology and includes all this relevant information here. So this is also kind of a good example to draw on because we can see there's a little green tab here that says full text available. Since this is an article and since this tab is green, what that means is if I click on this article, either through view it or get it, I should be able to find it. If, however, we scroll down to the thing below it, you'll have to excuse me, we can see that this one has no full text access. Now, this doesn't mean you can't get it. It just means you're going to have to order it. And you're going to have to go through the process of putting in a request through interlibrary loan. If you don't really know what that means, we're not going to have time to kind of cover it here, but this is something that you should talk to your school librarian about. Like, interlibrary loan is a pretty valuable tool, and it's well worth your time to look at how it works. But let's go through how they get this article. So I can push get it. Comes up. Interesting. So we'll try this. Sometimes this happens. Here we go. So get it in this case didn't work, but view it works just fine. So here I have full text available from two different sources. One is Wiley Online, another is EBSCO. So we'll click EBSCO. EBSCO is generally a pretty good choice. This opens up a new tab. And here we go. So now you can see on EBSCO, I have access to PDF full text access. I can download it, I can cite it, I can save it to my folder. So what OneSearch really attempts to do is it really attempts to integrate content that is found not only in CWU's libraries, but also content that's available through databases. You'll come to appreciate that this is a very convenient tool and is something that's really kind of valuable. You can also look at full text online. This excludes content to things that have these little green arrows that you should be able to find. But one more thing I want to talk about here before we move on to our next database is this feature here. So when you're looking at women in television and you still have like 1,500 different results, you want to start looking at narrowing it down. So leaving this and constant will narrow the results down because it looks for women in television and another instance that I'm going to think of. So for example, let's go with Nike, and we'll see how that works. I click search, and you can see now I'm down to 443 holdings. So every time, and I click Review Journal again, and now I'm down to 200 holdings. So you can see every time we add more search parameters, we start narrowing our results. So you want to think of this, right, as a trial and error process. So you have your kind of broad topic you're interested in, and then you start narrowing it, like, for example, Nike or other like sort of companies. So I can see here, right, manufacturing authenticity, the rhetoric of real in women's magazines. So I know that you can see, here's our women's magazines, women in its ads, Nike. Full text available. We click view it. Oh, sorry about that. This list populates, and I can see that EBSCO comes up. And I click this, and I have a PDF that I can look at. So you never even really needed to go to EBSCO to get there, which is actually pretty nice, and if I must say so, a rather good feature. So that'll about cover it for CWU's OneSearch feature. Through this interface, remember, you can also get to your eShelf and your account. You can also set up RSS feeds, but if you don't know how to do that, it's probably not, it's a little bit of work. But it can be valuable. It'll just send you automatic updates based on the journal that you're interested in. But that's something you should talk a little bit more about your professor because we don't really have time to get into it here.